Hello and welcome to the Free Dominion Show. My name is Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so very much for tuning into our broadcast today. Those of you joining us live, especially if you're joining us live from the social media like Facebook and YouTube, welcome. We are so glad that you could join our program today, and please be sure to share our program. Visit our social media pages, follow and like if you so choose, because we would love that very much. But also we would love for you to be sure to come in and participate to our conversation live as it happens. Even those of you watching straight from the televisions or listening straight from the radio station, we would love to hear from you as it happens. Our broadcast starts between 12 Eastern Standard Time to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. In this conversation or in this program or during this program, we speak frankly with you. We speak boldly and we speak with no apologies because we're discussing, we're sharing with you issues of which matters the most to our hearts. And it is in this spirit that everything we share with you in the spirit of truth, love, and trust. And these are the benchmarks by which we would love each and every one of you to measure both the integrity and the validity of the content that we will be sharing with you guys. And with that in mind, as always, we would love nothing more than receiving your feedbacks. And be sure to literally take some time to let us know what you like about the program, even what you do not like about the program. We welcome all your feedbacks, be it live in real time as it happens, or shoot us an email or call us. And for those of you who do not know how to get in touch with us, we have a website that you can use to reach out to us. From the website, you can find the rest of our information. So for those of you who do not know our website, it is www.afridominion.com. www.afridominion.com. Our main email, it's info@afridominion.com. info@afridominion.com. From the website, you will surely find our telephone number, our social media handlers, as well as some other information that we find necessary for you to consume or to have. Also, it will be a remiss if I didn't invite you to please remember to click on our private group. It's a Telegram group. We have the information straight from the website. We would love to hear from you from there. There you can actually join in and find other like minds, those who are actually headed the same direction, same destination as you. That way, together we can form that unity, which in turn would actually enable us to do more work together, more efficient and much more easier, because it will be a collected effort as opposed to just an individual effort. And with that in mind also, I would love to give each and every one of you a welcome to our program today. And I always start this program talking about what the show is about. But also in particular, we'd love talking about the actual show itself and the idea. So for those of you who have no idea, what is Free Dominion? Free Dominion, it's an idea that inspires, advocates, and encourages a complete and total dominion of Africa. One country at a time, by its sons, daughters, and African descendants, all for the interest of African people primarily, and then the rest of the world afterwards. So essentially, this particular show, the Free Dominion show, it's a mouthpiece of that same idea that we just discussed. Here at the show, you can expect to find inspirational programs. Absolutely. Inspirational programs programmed by us and nobody else. You can definitely find advocacy programs on behalf of the voiceless, our brothers and sisters in and outside of Africa. And you can absolutely find programs that encourages and help you take over, take the full control, take the complete dominion of Africa, its governorship, its leadership, its management of the resources completely. All of that, we do this in front of you guys, but also it is my pleasure to also let you know that in the background or behind the scene also, we do have some activities. Now, the only way you can actually join our activities, besides talking, you gotta join that that group, that private group. From there, you actually get an opportunity to find out what it is that we're doing, what is it that we are involved in, and you get to have an opportunity to actually participate. And again, welcome to all of you to that private groups, as well as here. We have Zoom open. Feel free to come in and join the conversation as it happens. Like I said, the program starts from 12 Eastern Standard Time to 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. For those of you who have no idea what Eastern Standard Time is, it is Washington, D.C. in the United States time. Okay? And with that in mind also, I want to also give you a quick brief of how this program is broken down. We have 5 themes for 5 different days because we broadcast 5 days a week. On Mondays, we talk about the eradication of African refugees and African stateless persons. This particular theme entails that everything related to refugees, everything related to stateless persons, in particular Africans, we get to cover, we get to talk about, and we get to advocate, we get to inspire, and we get to actually say, hey, what can we do to help you out? Or what can you do to help these brothers and sisters in predicament? On Tuesday, we talk about the Constitution, law, and policy review and implementations. We know that Africa has the best policies written down, but rarely followed. From policy standpoint to the local laws, national laws, even the Constitution. So what we have started to do here is to review all these laws to see whether they are actually in the best interest of our brothers and sisters all over Africa or in a particular country. If it is, we actually advocate for those laws to be implemented so that the people can actually see the benefits of these laws. And if it's bad, we actually advocate for an eradication of those laws, or to just get rid of them completely. And this, we are going to do it from your from your community, your village, your nation, and even the whole entire Africa. This is a daunting task, but not impossible. It's so many of us Africans, and it's about time that during this season, our season, we get to get our hands dirty. We get to take back the leadership that we have been rightfully given as an inheritance. It's about time that we get to handle that. On Thursdays, we talk about, on Wednesdays, we talk about our testimony, and we get an opportunity to write our own history. So for each and every one of you whose history is sketchy, whose history is completely blank, this is your time to have an opportunity to testify of who you are, of who your family is, your community, even your nation. We know that for centuries, Africa history has been deliberately buried. It has been buried so that you do not get the opportunity to know who you are as Africans or African descendants. And it's about time that we resurrect our whole history to the best of our recollections. And we do know that there are those of you who are currently holding history of Africa, different countries. You have actually purchased the history and you've put it in your private collections. That history belongs to the people. And you must be able to do the right thing to give it back to its rightful owner. But while we're still fighting to get our whole history back, now you make sure that you actually do your own part to lay down a brick that represent your family, that represent you, that represent your community, so that we can actually preserve this content for millennia to come. On Thursdays, we get to talk about the spirit of dominion. Again, that word dominion. What is dominion? Dominion entails that you actually take a full control governorship. You rule, you control, you master, you manage. So when we say we need to take over, we need to have a complete dominion of Africa. You have the ability to manage the entire Africa. You have the ability to control the entire Africa. You have the ability to master the entire Africa. You have the ability to manage all the resources of Africa. That ability, it's already in you. You were born with it. You don't get it from the universities. You do not get it from high schools or secondary schools. And you certainly do not get it from primary school. You may be wondering, how come I don't have it? Because you're not properly positioned. And so here we inspire you. We encourage and help you to get right back in your own position. You are sons, daughters, and African descendants. You are kings and queens, so you have to be able to take down your own position. Assume your positions as kings and queens. Assume your positions, assume your functions, and then get down to business. On Fridays, we get to talk about the current events and its impact to Africa and African people. So those are our programs from Mondays all the way to Fridays. And so with that in mind, guys, feel free. Welcome, welcome, welcome. By the way, I just forgot that on Fridays, you actually get to set the agenda. We may bring a topic. We may bring something happening throughout Africa. And if you have something else that seems to be important to your community, to your village, you can bring forward so we can actually have an opportunity to discuss that. You need no appointment to come here. Of course, if you have a specific topic that you would actually love to share with us, meaning the entire show, if you would like to take over the whole entire show, you actually get to write to us, and then you come over and we give you an opportunity to actually present. Because at the end of the day, this airtime is dedicated to Africa and African people, African issues, and everything Africa related. Some of you might say, isn't that discrimination? No, it isn't discrimination. Today, Africa is on fire. Our house is on fire. So we have a responsibility to quench the fire, to stop the fire, to put our house right back in order. And before you could ask us help to your own house, outside of Africa house, we gotta make sure that we take care of us first and foremost. And that's why we absolutely say that everything we're doing here is primarily for African people. And then the rest of the world comes afterwards. All of you are fully aware that Africa is very wealthy. However, African people are among the most poorest of the poorest on planet Earth. Most of them. So we want to change those conditions. It is no excuse that we are poor when we have the most wealthiest land, the most wealthiest natural resources. So it makes no sense. So essentially we are saying, if you are an outsider and you are actually taking over, you've been using our natural resources, you've been using all our things within Africa, it's about time we stop. We redistribute right back amongst ourselves. Once we are good, then we get to give you guys some as well. It is only right. Now, you may say, I don't think so. When was the last time you've seen the Northern America natural resources being plundered by African countries? When was the last time you've seen the European natural resources being plundered by Africans? When was the last time that you've seen South America natural resources being plundered by Africans? When was the last time you've seen Asian natural resources being plundered by Africans? The last time you've seen that, if you know of any of those times, please let us know. So we need to stop that, first and foremost. We are more than capable of nourishing the entire planet Earth. We are more than capable of doing it. We are more than capable of distributing all natural resources within Africa equally or equitably. It cannot be equally, it has to be equitably. So it is our responsibility that we get to do that. Even if we do not know how to do that, we must awaken the abilities to get right back into it. We used to do that for centuries and centuries and centuries ago, before slavery, before Africa became a target of slavery for the rest of the entire planet Earth. Technologies, researches, all the things that the entire planet is using, most of it used to be in Africa. Even today, there is remnant of the evidence. However, we do know that for those few stakeholders, you would love Africa as a continent to remain a dark place, a laboratory, right where you go test your weapons, right where you go make people poor, right where you go test your medicines, right where you go do all kinds of things, because we seem to be lab rats. Again, we're speaking frankly, boldly, and with no apologies. You are welcome to the show to have a saying about what we are saying here today. Now, with that in mind, guys, let's jump right in the program today, or the topic of today. So today we want to talk about, what do African constitutions say about toppling a government or coup d'etat? What happens when a country's top leader goes missing or out of public's eye without any announcement put out by the spokesperson? And again, we take the case of Rwanda, who is running the country. Why do I always pick on Rwanda? I'm from Rwanda. So I follow Rwanda the same way you can follow a needle. So that's what we want to talk about. So buckle up, come and let's discuss what we gotta do here today. And what is your role about all of this? So now you may be wondering, why do I have this topic today? I usually love talking about the why, because before the why, they say that there is always a method to the madness. I have been, for the past, let's even go just for the past 2 years, ever since COVID-19 started, we have seen so much turbulence within Africa. We've seen the African governments being toppled. We've seen African government losing its leadership powers. We've seen African government completely going dark, unable to manage the COVID-19, unable to manage the pandemic, unable to manage all the problems within the nation caused by the pandemic, unable to keep the order in the most efficient way. We've seen fights erupting in various places within Africa. We've seen all kinds of crazy things taking place within Africa. And you would imagine and you will wonder, is Africa the only continent that was affected by the pandemic? So today, I want to ask you guys, why is it that we have the most beautifully written down constitution within Africa? But this constitution, it's never followed. Most countries, they have beautiful constitution, beautiful laws within the books, beautiful policies within the books. However, the strong men within those respective countries rules by the fist. They rule based on the day-to-day emotions. Most of them. So what's the point of investing in this supreme agreement between the people and the leaders, between the people and the rest of the people, when there is zero intention of following them? Again, young people, I want you to actually use your head and think. How many governments have changed thus far in this 2021? I believe last week we actually talked about it. And before that, we talked about 25 to 26 assassination of leaders of the states within Africa for only a time period of 60 years. Most of these government leaders are being toppled. And you have what they call coup d'etat. That's when you actually remove a government by force. Oftentimes, it's a military that does that. The same kind of military that is supposed to be servant of the people. So why is it okay that only in Africa you see government that gets to be toppled? But you never see that in Europe. You never see that in America. You never see that in Asia. You never see that in Australia. What's wrong with this picture, guys? Why is it okay for a coup d'etat in Africa, but it's never okay to see a coup d'etat in France? It's never okay to see a coup d'etat in the United Kingdom. It's almost impossible to see a coup d'etat in the United States, in Canada, in Japan, in China, in Russia. Even when you think or when you hear about the rumbling about coup d'etat, it's somehow done following some sort of irregularities within the constitution. But in Africa, if I'm a general, if I'm a colonel, I might actually have the balls or the boldness to say, you know what, I actually don't like what this president is doing, especially the one who's elected by the people. Let me actually get him out of the office. And you hear international communities actually blessing the new leadership. Now you wonder, why is it okay that in their own countries they can never have coup d'etats? But in any given country within Africa, you can have coup d'etat at any given time. Absolutely ignoring the constitution, absolutely violating all the local laws, definitely. Policies are nothing to it. They just go straight to the toilet. So I submit to you that the reason this still happens today, that is because you Africans, your primary interest is yet to be secured. The outsider's primary interest has been always first and foremost. And anytime you're seeking for your own primary interest, you are toppled. You are removed from office. Again, I give you a few examples. Look at Lumumba. Look at Thomas Sankara. In whose interest were they working for? And why were they assassinated? Look at President Habyarimana and President Cyprien of Burundi and Rwanda. Why were they toppled? What was a coup d'etat? And who carried out that coup d'etat? This is something that has yet to be actually even openly spoken about. Why? Because of the way it's written in the books, the way it's spun in the mainstream media, and the way you, the stakeholders, I'm talking about you, citizens of those respective nations, respond to it. If you do not follow the management of your own nations on a national level, on regional level, on your village level, on your community level, how will you be an actual active contributing member of society? In particular, an actual citizen. You won't. So, again, what does the Constitution of African Nations say about coup d'etat? I've been skimming quite a few constitutions. I have yet to see a word called coup d'etat. African constitutions do not honor coup d'etat. I repeat, African constitutions do not honor such thing as a coup d'etat. Young people, young Africans, again, I'm going to give you a homework. I know the answer, but I'm not going to give it to you. How many coup d'etat has there been in Africa ever since African states became republic? How many nations have had coup d'etat ever since these nations became republics? How many coup d'etat have you had in the United States for the past 246 years? I want you to think about it, young people. How many coup d'etat have there been in the United States for these past 246 years? How many coup d'etats do you have in Canada ever since Canadian became a republic? How many coup d'etat have you seen in the United Kingdom? How many coup d'etat have you recorded down in France? How many coup d'etat in Germany? How many coup d'etat in Russia? How many coup d'etat in China, in Japan, in Australia? I mean, the list goes on. Why do I mention those main countries? Because these are the main countries that seems to be the masters of planet Earth today. They managed to maintain its stability. But they're actually expert in stability on the continent of Africa. And again, I submit to you to fact check me. So you Africans, how long is it going to take before you realize that, you know what, in your own country, you collude to a coup d'etat. You cause instability within your own land. And then you cry for help at the United Nations to the very people colluding in your own coup d'etats. I mean, how can you be that dull? If you take matters in your own hands, if you take the management of your full nation in your own hands, and do not leave one little shredded piece to the outsiders, how will you have an actual coup d'etat in your own nation? It is almost impossible. That still goes back to that supreme agreement between the people. There is no way a military personnel is going to commit a coup d'etat in a nation where the people are involved in the management of the nation themselves. Which is why I believe the great King Solomon says that woe is a nation where a slave goes all the way to the seat of a king. If you have never managed a nation before, and all of a sudden you manage to get there and you have zero experience in the management of a nation, what can you expect to come out of that nation in terms of fruits? There's very little that you can expect. Very little that you can expect. So today you have so many Africans who are constantly leaving Africa. They go outside of Africa to Europe, to the United States, to Asia. Now, when I say United States, it's huge. It takes almost the whole entire northern continent, with the exception of Canada. So you have Canada and the United States, really, they occupy Northern America. Then you have South America, right down there. So you have many Africans who actually go on these other continents. Why? Because they don't find anything helpful. They don't find anything positive going on in their own nation. I call that the lack of creativity on one side, but I also attribute that to the will of taking back the dominion of your own land. If you slack, if you give up your kingship, if you give up your dominion, and you let a slave take over, you have no option but to flee, but to leave your land. And guess what? That slave is going to do as he or she pleases. And you see that every single day in your own homeland. Then you get to cry that you are being persecuted, that you are being killed, that you are being disappeared. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But we are to be blamed. It is our own responsibility to maintain, to secure our own land, our own homeland, not the outsiders, certainly not the foreigners. Now, all these foreigners, they come in. They take over our land. We freely give it to them over a little basket of porridge or rice. Something that is absolutely not even equal to what you sell. That's what a slave does. Whatever you're hungry for, you can even sell your birthrights to who has what you're looking for. Because your head, it's not there. Your brain has been shut down. But I submit to you guys, doesn't matter how long it's been, doesn't matter how many agreements that you have signed, especially with the non-Africans. These agreements are going to be nullified. You cannot rape financially, you cannot rape socially, you cannot rape physically, and you cannot rape morally the continent of Africa and African people. And put all that in these agreements, and you call them binding agreements. And you get to say that this is it. And if all apples on the table are equal, would you go for those same agreements that you have had for 300, 400 years with some of these African nations? And I submit that it's a no. And this is why I am calling out to all of you young people. Take some time. Go in your legislature bodies. Learn the agreements that these deputies, that these representatives of yours have signed over the centuries. We have thousands and thousands of laws, thousands and thousands of agreements that go back 100, 200, 300 years that have been signed with outsiders that you know nothing about of today, that actually influence your lifestyle today, that influence your family lifestyle, your community lifestyle, your village lifestyle, the whole entire region lifestyle, even your nation. How is it that these laws, these agreements, are not reviewed in 2022 and beyond? Just because you see this little word, binding, and you're like, no, I can't touch this because one of these powerful nations is going to come and squash me. Are you killing me? That is classic example of what I call bully. If the so-called powerful nation is bullying you, is forcing you to do something that it would never dare do in its own land, and you are too scared, too afraid, and too dull to speak up, what good are you as a leader? What good are you as a citizen of your respective nation? I submit to you all that in this 2022, young people of your own respective nations, if you do not take some time and get to study from the very highest agreements that you have, supreme agreements, aka also known as your constitution, read from the very first word all the way to the last word of what's happening in your nation, and then go back, get into your local laws and scrutinize each and every one of these laws. You will never be able to seize back the power. You will never be able to take back the full management of your own land. And certainly, you will never be able to dominate your own land. While someone from thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away is actually holding your nation in his or her hand, overseeing everything happening according to the way they have predetermined. And we want that to be over. We absolutely want that to be over with today, not tomorrow, today. And my question becomes to you, what are you going to do about this? When you see bickering out of nowhere among politicians who become somehow forgetful that they're representing the people, do you send your politician to go and fight with each other? Because everything they do it in your on your behalf as a people. If these politicians are bickering, if these politicians are doing the things that you have not sent them to do, whose responsibility is it to rectify those behaviors? And I submit to you that it is your responsibility. But if you do not know your responsibility, how can you be accountable for something you have no knowledge of? Hence me telling you, get to know who you are as a people. Get to know your responsibility as a citizen of your respective nations. Take seriously your responsibility and be accountable. The same way you must hold responsible, the same way you must hold accountable these local leaders all the way to your national leaders, including the head of your nations. There is no reason why you should mumble, talk about he's a puppet of the West. He's a puppet of the Asians. He's a puppet of Australians. By that time, you've done failed. He or she became a puppet because you lacked the oversight of the functions that you have trusted that individual. If you lack an oversight, that is a responsibility. You are accountable for that. If an outsider come in and actually implant a leader, set up a government in your own country, and you have no saying in it, it is no different than a kingdom coming in and taking over a territory and it becomes a colony. But wait, today republics can never have colonies. Today they have something they call occupation. That is an equivalent of a colony in kingdoms. So you have many African lands occupied by the outsiders. Again, plenty of examples, but it's up to you to do a little homework. Even though we talk about it, but I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you. See how many occupation you have in your own nations. And what does it mean, occupation? When you have foreign military occupying your land, when these foreign military occupy your land, they give you their own policies. Remember policy? They give you their own laws, and they top it up. They top it off with their own agreements. Again, I gave you a clean and clear example recently of Rwanda and the United States as an example. So how long are you going to support these occupations? When was the last time you've seen, let me pick any country, Ethiopian military coming in the United States, let's say in Maryland, and actually have a base, a military base in Maryland? When was the last time you've seen a Burundian military go into France and have a military base in France? When was the last time you've seen Rwanda, as little teeny as it is, going to Germany and have a military base in Germany? When have you seen a South African army going to China and have a military base in China? When was the last time you've seen Nigeria? It's quite a very advanced nation, taking its military and go to Japan and set up a base? When have you seen Ghana military taking its army and go to Australia and set up a base? African nations have no occupation on any other planet, on any other land on planet Earth, except in their own homeland. So why is it okay for China, for the United States, for France, for Germany, for Russia, for Canadians, I mean the list goes on, Australians, to have base in your own nations? I am asking you, young people, are you even aware of that? This thing is happening every single day on the continent of Africa. Again, because Africa, it's like a lab rat. So many things are done on the continent of Africa and to the African people. And we have zero Africans doing anything about it. And the few who are doing something about it are they're too ineffective. So there is a need for us to get together, young people, and you, older people, enough. This is a season where you put aside your differences. All our differences, we have to be able to put it aside. We have to unify and get our house in order. It's a must do or die. It is a must do or die. There's no reason why African countries must be run by the outsider policies, outsider laws and regulations, outside drafted agreements that have zero interest for the African people. It's almost a trend throughout Africa. These nations, they are signing agreements, they are entering into agreements with outside nations. These agreements, the people themselves have zero knowledge of them. So we must be able to flip the coin, guys. We have to be able to say no. And that's why you have things like these, the so-called executive branches, the legislature branches, and the judicial branches. Sometimes when I say this, it's sort of laughable. Again, we have the most beautiful structure, government structures within Africa. But these structures do not work. They are like decorations. And the people themselves do not have the boldness to do what they're supposed to be doing. So young people, I keep on saying you young people. Why? Because Africa has the youngest population on planet Earth. If you wake up the giants inside of you, if you actually focus on the affairs of your respective nations, if you decide to take the full and total dominion of your own homeland, meaning if you do decide to take the entire governorship of your nation and you take the full control of it and you master everything taking place in your own nation and you actually secure your own nation, not the outsider, not the occupiers, then you would actually be in a position to start having an actual change, to start looking and seeking and securing the interest of our own people. But you got to be bold enough. You've got to be fearless. And you've got to remember who you are. Enough with that. But I ask that you do think about that and let me know. That takes me to the next point. What happens when a country's top leader goes missing or outside of public eye without any announcement from his or her office? Let me give you a good example. President Biden, he's the United States of America president. This man, his schedule, it's around the clock. You will never not know his ways about. 24/7 almost. The public, the American citizen, all the American citizens have the right to know what the President of the United States is doing at any given time. Same goes to the Vice President. Now, if these leaders have maintained the integrity and the transparency of what they are up to. And it has worked for 240 something years. Why is it that as Africans, at least we are so good in copying and paste? Why can we not paste? Why can we not copy and paste some of the good, some of the amazing best practices that we can pick up from all these other nations, so-called stable nations? Why is it that you cannot copy the best practices and actually try it out in your own nations? When President Biden coughs, every single newspaper, every single media outlet knows about it. Even when he is taken to the hospital, the doctor who cares for the president must make some sort of announcement telling the people of the status of the leader's health. When was the last time you've seen an African president letting you know, this is my schedule, my daily routine schedule, this is what I'm up to. Anytime you need me, make an appointment, I will see you. I'm asking you guys, let me know which one of these African nations actually has a public presidential schedule. I have yet to see one. You wonder why we have problems. These top leaders, they get paid so much money, more than the Western nations leaders, more than the European leaders. They get paid more in money, in dollars. Yet, when you look at what they are doing, you cannot find the results of what actually gives them the audacity to take so much money from the people. And again, these nations, the developed nations, they see that. They usually be like, it is none of our business. As long as you do not touch our interests, we don't bother you. So you young people, I get to ask you again, is it fair that the president of your nation can get paid 20 to 30 to 40,000% more than an average earner? An average earner. Let's take up a teacher, for example. A salary of a teacher and a salary of a president. Look up the percentage. Tell me if that is okay. But going back to the reason why I ask you, what happens when the country's top leader goes missing, completely out of public's eye? Here in these developed nations, it's impossible for them to go missing. Even if they are sick, they have to publicly inform the public that the top leader is sick. There's nothing wrong in them getting sick. After all, they are humans. Some of them even died in office. There are records. But the nation never fell apart. Let an African president go in a hospital. Turbulence erupts. And that is one of the reasons why they hide that they are sick. That is why you will never know who's their doctor. That is why you will never know whether the local hospital or local hospitals attend to them. Most of them, they go in these developed nations. That goes for their families as well, and the rest of the executive members, the cabinet members, even some of the local leaders. So how can you expect a local hospital to take care of you if you have never invested in its capacity to actually take care of you locally? How can you keep tabs on the top leaders' health when they go overseas for medical checkup? That brings me down now to Rwanda, the case of Rwanda, guys. For the past 28 years, Paul Kagame has been a top leader in Rwanda, both officially and unofficially. And I explain myself. From 1994, from July 20th, 1994, up until 2000, when he assumed the presidency, this man was both the Minister of Defense and the Vice President of the country. He ran Rwanda. He ran Rwanda. All that time, he was getting a little bit of experience on how to run a nation. His puppet, that word, puppet, Pastor Bizimungu. He was a decorated president on seat. From 1994 up until today, who of you, Rwandan citizen, have a record of the health of Paul Kagame, either as a president or as a vice president and defense minister? Who amongst you have his health bill? I submit that it's zero. Consequently, the word on the street is Paul Kagame has been getting sick very badly over time. There are records, unofficial records. Given that he does not get cared from the Rwandan hospitals, he gets cared overseas, especially when he has some of the most advanced diseases, as they say. So Rwandan people have zero record of his health bill. They don't know the status of his health as a president of a nation. They would never dare ask. Never dare ask the status of Paul Kagame. Which is why, and actually, frankly speaking, for the past 2 years, we have had rumors, we have had those people who claim like, hey, I know that this man no longer exists or have died. So, for the past 2 years, you have the Rwandese community claiming publicly that President Paul Kagame, as we know him, is no longer. Yet, those of you constantly see him on video. You constantly see him in meetings. Up and down. Only recently, there was a full period of about 1 year, 1 year and a half, when you could not see him anywhere. Not in the country. Literally, you couldn't see him nowhere. And so you can imagine the speculation. You can imagine the people talking. You can imagine so much was going on and still going on. So now they say that the person that you get to see interacting with the rest of these nations, it's a person, I'm not even going to mention the name. There is a comedian who used to imitate the president. So they say that he's wearing a mask so that he can actually dupe the rest of these people. That's why you see Rwandan's foreign minister, Vincent Biruta, constantly babysitting the president. Before COVID-19, go back in the history and count how many times President of Rwanda was accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. How many times have you seen the President of Rwanda lacking to sign a document by himself. For the past 2 years, the Prime Minister of Rwanda signs for the President. The Foreign Affairs signs on behalf of President Kagame. Even though sometimes he doesn't even say, I'm signing on behalf of President Kagame. Point a case. The Status Force Agreement signed by the United States and Rwanda. Those agreements were supposed to have been signed by the President himself. The Foreign Affairs signed the treaty. Now, the Constitution of Rwanda says that only the President of Rwanda has the power to sign international treaty, not the Foreign Affairs Minister, nor the Prime Minister. So, while the Rwandan population, the community, the citizens, continue to ask, where is President Kagame? Where is President Kagame? Where is President Kagame? You guys go in Kinyarwanda, in all these programs in Kinyarwanda. Even in French, there are those bold enough who have actually wrote about it and actually have programs about it. The entire community, international community to be specific, have been silent. We know that there is intelligence from the Big Five, the United States, the Canadian, the French, the Russian, the Chinese, even the French. If they can find Bin Laden a mile down in a hole, if they can find Saddam Hussein down in a hole, do you really think that they do not know the ways about of President Paul Kagame? Do you really know that they do not know the ways about of his health bill, his health status? Why the secrecy for these past 2 years? Ladies and gentlemen, in Rwanda, they're talking about coup d'etat. And again, I ask you, why is it okay for another coup d'etat in Rwanda, but it's not okay for a coup d'etat in France? It's not okay for a coup d'etat in the United States. It's not okay for a coup d'etat in Canada, in Russia, in China. Aren't you actually a part of the instability that we are fighting against? What is the point of having a constitution when the people aren't educated of the constitution? President Kagame has not seen the public, an average person to be specific, for the past 2 years. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, they are with the people every day in the United States. President Macron of France is with the people every day. Why is it okay that your own nations are run smoothly? However, you educate Africans how to have a good governorship, but you ignore something as important as those irregularities within the executive branches. What happens if we have a coup d'etat tomorrow in Rwanda and you, the Big Fives, knew about it for the past 2 years, but you said nothing to the Rwandan population? Whose interest are you actually securing first and foremost? Is it Rwandan citizens' interest or your own private interest? Why did the United States rush to have a secure basis in Rwanda? Young people, you need to start wondering these questions. Rwanda is called the Singapore, or has been labeled the Singapore of Africa in the books. But it's still Rwanda in reality. There is a facade of what's going on, but the reality speaks otherwise. There is insecurity, there is instability in reality, but there is absolute stability on social media, on mainstream media. People are dying. You have rapes. You have just the most intolerable situations within the country. Crimes being committed by the government, by these generals, completely unchecked. The entire government completely inadequate, not functioning for the past 2 years. And not one single international community says anything about it. But we understand. Because it is none of your business as long as your interest is actually secured. So now it comes down to you Africans and you Rwandan in particular. How long is it going to take before you actually become accountable? You become responsible for your own duties as citizens of your own homeland. You Rwandans, how long is it going to take for you to actually say, hey, we need some help? For the past 2 years, we have been asking, is that really President Kagame? Or it's a person wearing a mask? The judicial system has yet to do anything. The so-called Rwandan Investigative Bureau hasn't done anything. Can you imagine if someone was faking Joe Biden today or Kamala Harris? Can you imagine what would happen here in the United States? And it goes on for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. And people are skeptical as to whether that's President Biden or not. Can you just imagine what would be happening in the United States? However, in Rwanda for the past 2 years, for the past two years, people have talked and updated. Anybody who mentioned where is president, either they got killed or they went straight to jail. There are plenty of examples that I can give you, but one of the examples that comes to mind right away, it's this courageous young mother called Yvonne Idamange Idyamugwiza. She boldly told the Rwandese people, are you really looking at the situation here? Do you really believe that we have a shepherd in this nation? She took an inventory of everything that was going on wrong in the country. From crimes to so many criminal activities, people losing their homes, people losing their properties, women being raped, children being raped, husbands being beaten, people disappearing, people getting killed, plenty of citizens disappearing. And she came to a conclusion that, you know what, this nation doesn't have a top leader. This nation doesn't have a president. Where is our president? The minute she mentioned those words, she was taken straight to prison. That was last February the 15th. We are working to translate all her videos in your local languages, you outsiders. having the boldness of seeking out the truth. In the country called Rwanda, the same country you advertise every day, visit Rwanda, visit Rwanda, visit Rwanda. You either end up dead, disappeared, or straight to jail with no chance of having some sort of justice rendered to you. This woman, Yvonne Idyamugwiza Idamange, she was denied justice openly. She was denied justice because she asked, where is the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame? And she dare say this president actually is dead. The security forces, they put her to jail immediately. She has been tortured. She has been denied some of the basic needs, things like Kotex, your women hygienic products. She has been denied the very basic human rights. Why? Because she asked, where is President Kagame? What happened to him? Now, given that President Kagame is such an amazing president, a benevolent president, he has not one time, came in front of the Rwandan people and said, listen, here I am. Those of you who claim that I'm not around, here I am. The judicial system has yet to inquire as to why is it thousands and thousands and thousands, even millions of Rwandans are asking, where are you? They have yet to ask any of that. Again, our friendly nations, those spying in Rwanda, those running military operations in Rwanda, they know what time it is. They know what's going on in the country. But they will not dare say anything about it because it's none of their business. So I ask you, international community, and I also ask you, Rwandan citizen, how long is it going to take before you become bold enough to ask, where is the truth about President Paul Kagame? Is he sick? Is he dead? Is he alive? Do we see a person in mask every day running the nation for the past 2 years? Or it's him in actuality? Now, is the coup d'etat being planned because President Kagame is incapable of running the country, especially that you show him in videos? Or he no longer is securing the interest of outsiders because he hasn't been securing the Rwandese interest for the longest. But now I'm wondering, is the coup d'etat that's being spoken outside a part of actually removing the masked person off the seat? We are asking. And again, those of you listening to this in English, this is nothing new. This is something that's been there for the past 2 years, but it has been contained in Kinyarwanda and only in Kinyarwanda. We are compiling all those programs that have spoke about it extensively. We even spoke about it in our own channel in Kinyarwanda. We discussed about it. We still discuss about it every once in a while. But guess what? The local leadership in Rwanda, not only they won't hear it, they won't investigate it, and they make sure that everybody who talks about it, especially if you are in the country, you immediately get to be silenced, either permanently, or they make you disappear, or you end up going to jail. It is not just that. Most recently, There is a man by the name Barafinda. He is another presidential contender. He ran for president. He actually competed for a presidential presidential seat in 2017. This man Barafinda, Sech Kubo Fred, he also dared ask, where is President Paul Kagame? They took this man and sent him to a mental hospital. A unit of military went to his home, bashed inside of his house, took him, handcuffed him with no warranty, with no cause for grabbing him, and took him to the hospital, to a mental facility hospital. Ever since then, it's been at least a month or so. They've been injecting him with medicine to actually fix his head so that he no longer talks about President Paul Kagame and his ways about. And I ask you, the international community, knowing what's happening in Rwanda, seeing what's happening in Rwanda, you have the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, you have the human rights organizations, you have spies in Rwanda and outside of Rwanda, you have so many stakeholders, outsider stakeholders in the nation who actually and absolutely follow everything that takes place in the country. How is it that you allow a government that you actually have on a lockdown torture its people, take the authority that they have no legal right to take a grown person who has a family, who has a spouse, and they decided that they are going to cure a disease that doesn't exist in his brain because he dared ask, where is President Paul Kagame? This man, it's not the first time he's been taken to a mental hospital. This is the second time, most recently. Now, the government of Rwanda, with the audacity, the same way they've been taking medicine and injecting inside of people, without authorization, by force, the same way they've taken this man also, who actually, they usually say, you climb the tree that you don't have business climbing to. He dared talk about the most goddess person in the country. A president of a country being considered as a god, that you don't talk about him. So you wonder, is this person the same person who has been elected, quote unquote? Is this the same person who toppled the government back in 1994? Why is the international community not doing anything about this? You Africans who every day see Rwanda for what it's not, I ask you to take some time and go and look right underneath of the hood, beyond what the mainstream media is broadcasting, beyond what the mainstream journalists are writing. Talk to the Rwandese community. Go and visit the country. And don't just stay inside of the Rwanda's capital, Kigali. Venture outside. See what's going on. And then again, come back and give us a verdict. So I am asking you, African people, I am also asking you, the international community. Right now, Rwanda is like a pot that's cooking, and the pressure is building up. And that pressure doesn't have any exit. By the time it erupts, it will be worse than what it was in 1994. I'm not saying something you do not already know, but now we want to let you know that we are fully aware of what's happening Now my question to you becomes, are you going to dare say, we did not know what was happening? Given that you have all operations, military operation, spy operations, diplomatic corps, all kinds of other stakeholders in the country, all securing your own interest, giving you day-to-day report, accurate report, I shall actually stress. Will you dare say that you had no idea what was happening in Rwanda? I also do ask you Rwandese people, who's planning to commit a coup d'etat? Do you actually respect the constitution of Rwanda, as bad as it could be? If you say, are you going to actually go back and topple the government instead of you embracing the powers you have been given as citizens, correct what is needed to be corrected, and legally take the power instead of just snatching it? Can we, as Rwandese people, afford going back in the days of 1994? Can we afford it? I submit to you that it's a hell no. Up to this very day, Rwanda has never been able to recover, not because of a lack of capacity, but because of a terrible leadership within the nation. The world has showered Rwanda with so much resources, from money to military, education, equipments, weaponry, to social education, uplifting, all kinds of activities from outside nations. However, all these resources have been distributed among the elites, and very little has been passed on to the people. So those very few have really excelled in life. They actually are doing as good as you can imagine. But the millions left over have gotten worse than the way they were before 1994. Fact. Go check. So I ask you, who are you going to cry to this time? Rwandans. Will you go to the United Nations? Will you come here to the United States? Will you go to Canada? Will you go to France? Will you go to Germany? Will you go to Russia? Will you go to China? That's a question I really would love for you to answer. Or will you finally decide to actually take matters in your own hands as citizens of Rwanda legally and take back what is rightfully yours? Guys, when I say that the country you guys hear as Rwanda is on fire, it's been on fire. Rwanda has been on fire for 28 years. But we need firefighters who can actually quench the fire. Will you be one of the benevolent firefighters to come and actually fight side to side with us? Let's stop the fire. Stop the nation from bleeding. Stop the nation from burning. And rebuild the right way. This is the question for each and every one of you Rwandans, both in the nation and outside of the nation. This is also a question to you Africans, especially those of you who have heard of Rwanda, who admire so much the country called Rwanda. Rwanda is on fire today. It's been on fire for the past 28 years. but you have no idea that that's what's going on. Because the mainstream media would never dare to share that with you. You hear of Paul Kagame as a president, and the most amazing president that you want to have to lead your own nations. When was the last time he came and hang out with you, young people? He came and actually acted presidential amongst you. He came and took care of the issues of people losing their homes, military raping people openly, and none of them goes to jail. People disappearing, people going to jail, and he just let it all be. Could he be a dictator? Could he be missing? Could he be dead? Or could he just not be caring anymore? Let me finish up by just sharing with you some of the responsibility of a president. Because I really want you to see, at least according to the Rwandan constitution. So the responsibility of president of the republic. The president of the republic is the head of the state. The president of the republic is the defender of the constitution and the guarantor of national unity. Listen. The president of the republic ensures the continuity of the state, independence and sovereignty of the country, and the respect of international treaties. The president of the republic once every year delivers the State of the Nation address. The rest I'm not going to read it right quick. There is something that I also want to read right quick. The term of office used to be 5 years. Now it's become 7. The oath of the president. The duty incompatible with the office of the president of the republic. I want to read this right quick. The office of the president of the republic. Okay, they're telling me that we don't have any more time. Anyway, guys, I wanted to just tell you something really important. Let me find it right quick. The transition, replacing or acting on behalf of the president of the republic. So the president of the republic ceases to hold office if he or she is definitely sentenced by the Supreme Court for treason or a serious and deliberate violation of the Constitution. The decision authorizing charges to be filed against the President of the Republic in the Supreme Court is taken by 2/3 majority vote of members of each chamber of Parliament in a joint sitting. Prosecution against the President of the Republic is conducted by the Prosecutor General, the Deputy Prosecutor General, or both. If the President of the Republic is convicted of offenses mentioned in the first paragraph of this article, or if he or she dies, resigns, or permanently incapacitated, the President of the Supreme Court declares the office of the President of the Republic vacant. The President of the Republic is then replaced in an acting capacity by the President of the Senate, or in his or her absence by the Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies, or in the absence of both by the Prime Minister. Permanent incapacity, referred to in the 4th paragraph of this article, is certified by a panel of 3 medical doctors nominated by the Minister in charge of Health upon request by the President of the Supreme Court. The acting President of the Republic referred to in this article cannot appoint public officials, call a referendum, initiate an amendment to the Constitution, exercise the prerogative of mercy, or declare war. In case the office of the President of the Republic becomes vacant before the end of the President's term of office, elections to replace him or her are organized within 90 days. his or her successor is elected for the term of the office provided in Article 101 of this Constitution. When the President of the Republic is out of country, sick, or temporarily unable to perform his or her duties, the Prime Minister serves in acting capacity. So why am I reading this, guys? For the past 2 years, the Prime Minister of Rwanda has been the one fully taking the duties of the President quietly. And he actually, covering himself, has been saying that he is doing on behalf of the President of the country. Now I ask you, again, what's going on in Rwanda? Where is President Paul Kagame? How come he hasn't signed a single article, a single law that we know of? You, the international community, has so much stake in what's going on in Rwanda. You, Rwandan people, have so much at stake in what's going on in your nation. Certainly, you African nations, you have so much at stake in the instability that the Rwanda as a country can cause if indeed is on fire and burning, or your interest is definitely going to go in a toilet, and potentially everything that you are attempting to secure may no longer be because of some of the basic things that you are ignoring. In any case, thank you so very much. I ask that you do give us some feedbacks in this program. I know it's intense. I know some of the things we have shared with you. You're probably going to wonder about it for quite some time. But I also ask you to actually check everything that we are saying. Let us know what you think. And by all means, we welcome your feedbacks. As always, those of you who don't know how to find us on our website, afridominion.com or www.afridominion.com. Shoot us an email at info@afridominion.com, and certainly give us a call if you so choose. And with that in mind, I am Freeman Singirankabo with Afri Dominion Show. Until we see you next time, so long.